Hey everybody, Ryan here at etrailer. Today on our 2015 Chevrolet Sonic, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Roadmaster Bulb and Socket wiring kit for towed vehicles. So you're going to have a total of 5 main components needed to flat tow your Sonic down the road. First one's going to be your base plate, and that's going to provide us with a solid and reliable connection point. That way we can hook up our tow bar to. That's going to be the second component. That's going to be that physical link that connects the front of your Sonic to the back of your motorhome. The third main component is going to be safety cables. And these are going to be there in the event of an unlikely disconnect. They're going to keep everything linked together. Fourth main component is going to be your tow bar wiring. And this is going to transfer the lighting functions from the back of your motorhome to the back of your Chevy, keeping you safe and legal. And last but not least, we have a braking system. That's the fifth component. What that's going to do is apply the brakes in your Sonic. Whenever you apply the brakes in your motorhome, that's just going to help bring you to a more predictable and safe stop. So this is a perfect example on how our wiring kit is actually going to work. So you can see we have the left turn signal going on our motorhome, and it is transferring that signal here to the back of our Sonic. It's going to work the same way for our right turn, our brake lights, as well as our tail lights. So we got all of our bases covered there. And one thing that I really like about the LED kit, like we have here today, is these things are bright. I mean, even in the daytime, nobody's going to miss these. So really nice there. You're not going to have to worry about some, really dim bulbs that people can't hardly see, especially when it really matters, at nighttime or in the rain, stuff like that. What's cool about the bulb and socket kit is that once you have it installed, all right, it's going to be done. It's going to be super straightforward to hook up whenever you're ready to flat tow. More or less, you're just going to have to plug it into the front of your Chevy and into the back of your motorhome. And that's not the case with some of the other kits, like the magnetic lighting, for example. That would require you to take your lights, put them on top of your vehicle every time you want to flat tow, and then drape wires all the way to the front and get them hooked up to the back of your motorhome. That's just kind of a pain. Takes some time to set up, and then you're worried about your car getting scratched up and things like that. Not to mention, whenever you're done with them, you're going to have to take them off and then find a spot to store all that wiring and everything else. And when you're over the road in a motorhome, storage is really important. So don't waste a bunch of space. You can go with the bulb and socket, and it's something you're not going to have to worry about. One of the things that I do like about the bulb and socket kit is the fact that it's completely isolated from your vehicle. So what I mean by that is it has its own wiring. You're not tapping into your Chevy's factory wiring or anything like that. So you're not going to have to worry about jeopardizing electric systems in your Sonic. The one thing I really wasn't too crazy about until I actually did it, it kind of put my concerns at rest, was the thought of having to drill a small hole in the taillight itself. That way we could get our bulb and socket in there. But once I did it, it actually turned out really nice. That socket fits in the housing nice and tight, and after I put some sealer around it, it's not going anywhere. So it really turned out good, and honestly, it sounds scarier than what it really is. So I said it's really easy to use. All you're going to have to do is take your wiring here and plug it into your 6-way connector here at the front of your Sonic. That's really all there is to it. So the other end of the connector would get plugged into the back of the motorhome. Now, I do want to mention something with this kit, and this is just really going to depend on what you have. So with this particular kit, it comes with this hybrid coiled cable. And this is something you would typically use with a tow bar that's set up a little bit different than this one here. This is one you would use typically when your tow bar has channels in it. That way you could route the cable through the channels. This one will work fine, but it's not, there's better choices, okay? This kit, as well as the one that does not come with a cable, also doesn't include a 6-way round connector. So unless you picked up a tow bar that has this included or already have one, this is something, connector here, that you're going to have to pick up separately. So to give you an example, say if you had a tow bar that did not have channels in it, what I would recommend doing is getting the kit that does not come with a cable and then picking up a coiled cable. And that usually comes with your connector as well as a cable. If your tow bar does have channels in it, you could use this kit, and you just need to pick up that connector separately. Or you could also use the kit that does not come with a cable, and you could pick up just a straight cable separately, and that would usually come with the connector as well. So just want to give you a few different options and really just try to give you a solution that'll work best for your particular application. So to begin our installation, we're going to be here at the front of our Chevy, and we have our fascia removed because we're doing this at the same time we did our base plate. This doesn't have to be removed to get this done. I just wanted to mention it in case you were wondering. With that being said, we need to route our bundle of wiring. Okay, so one end of our wire, I just have it loosely hanging here next to our bracket for our connector plug. Give yourself about a foot extra to work with and start to route it. So what I did was just kind of follow it along through here, through this area. So here's where it comes kind of up and behind our headlight, along this edge here, and where it kind of comes closer to the center of the vehicle and straight down our firewall to the bottom side of our car. So here's where our wiring drops down now underneath the vehicle along our firewall, where it comes through here. Zip tied it along this bracket. Then I just kind of shot over to our frame rail, and I did this to avoid our hot exhaust. You want to avoid that hot exhaust as well as any moving components when you're doing this. Just pushed our wiring up into the hole and continued just to route it back. You can see I secured it there. Where it comes out there. It's up and over. And really don't have on this side a straight shot to go towards the back, so what I did was just cut it over towards the passenger side of our vehicle. See it there? Routed it up and over our axle and all the way to the back here. Now when I got to the back, what I did is just separate the wires so we have 4 individual strands. I'm just going to kind of let this hang out for now. I can open up our hatch and get our taillights unplugged and removed. So there's going to be 2 Phillips head screws here. And pop them out. Just grab your taillight, kind of work it side to side and carefully pull towards you. It'll release these alignment pins. But now we're just going to separate it from our wiring. So these are all 1/4 turn bulbs, so you can just grab it, rotate about a 1/4 turn, and pop it out. Get this one removed as well. You can set our light to the side and repeat this same process to get our passenger side one removed. Now over here on the passenger side, we need to get our wiring up into the taillight pocket. So I just use a piece of tubing as a pull wire. You can use like a coat hanger or something as well. So just stick it through the opening here, comes out the bottom. And what I've done is taped on my white, brown, and green wire. And I use 2 additional pieces of wire as well. I got a black one and a white one, and we're going to use these as jumper wires. So I tape those to it as well. And now what we can do is just kind of grab our pull wire and feed the wiring up into our taillight pocket. So now what we can do is grab our taillight, and we need to create a hole in it. That way we can put in our bulb and socket. So if you flip it on the back, I'm going to go in this area right here. You want to make sure you have enough clearance for the bulb that's going to originally go back in there, and for our new bulb to go in as well. So we go right here in this area. I'm going to be using a hole saw to get this done. What I actually found with these hole saws in plastic is if you kind of start it with the bit turning to the right and then actually put it in reverse and finish it out that way, it kind of just makes for a cleaner cut and is less prone to crack, at least in my experience. So I'm gonna pick our spot here and drill out our opening. Now we can grab our bulb and socket, and what I like to do before we actually put it in the tail light is strip our wires back first. That way they're done. We don't have to worry about it later. Just do that. And then what we're going to need to do is, you can see these little teeth on here. If we try to just take this and put it in the tail light, it's too loose. Okay, it'll flop around and fall out. So what we need to do is just kind of pry these open a little bit. So I just got a pick here. You can just use pretty much any tool you got laying around to do this. Pretty easy. Just kind of go around to each one and open them up a little bit. That way, when we push this in, we want some tension, and we want it to get a good hold on the tail light. So we'll try it out. That felt about spot on. You felt some tension, took a little bit of force to get in there. It's not moving around at all and is very solid. So what I went ahead and did was use some silicone. You can find this here at etrailer. And I sealed up around our bulb and socket there really well. I don't want any moisture, anything like that entering inside. So I just blobbed it up around there. We're going to repeat the same process for the other tail light. We'll then set both the tail lights aside and let them dry while we're working on finishing everything else up. So I figured we can go ahead and come up here to the front, wire up our connector plug while we wait for our RTV silicone to dry on the taillight. So what I'm going to do, one end of our wiring here, I'm going to take the rubber boot, slide that over. What I'm going to do is split the wires, maybe a few inches. Peel them back. And then we can strip the ends of the insulation off. That way the wires can actually get hooked into our connector plug. Get that removed. And with these wires, I do like to give them a solid twist there. That way it keeps them nice and tight and helps make a good connection. So kind of just let those hang for now. If we look at our connector plug, on the back here we're going to have several terminals, 6 of them to be exact, and we're going to be using 4. The way these are going to work is you're going to have a set screw in there, and so you can take a small Phillips and kind of back that screw out. Not completely, but almost all the way. And so the terminals that we're going to be using will be this one. It's labeled TM for tail light, so our brown wire will go there. This one's labeled GD for ground, so our white wire will go to it. This one's labeled LT for left turn, so our yellow wire will go to that one. And this one here is labeled RT for right turn, so our green wire will go there. So I'll get these set screws backed out, and then we can start to hook up our wires. I'll show you how to do. So we'll start with TM, our tail light wire, which is the brown one. So that's just simply just going to plug right in. You can hold that wire in there and then just snug down that set screw. So it's really straightforward. Make sure it's tight so we got a good connection. I'm just going to repeat that same process for our 3 remaining wires here. So this is the way your connector plug's going to look once you have all your wires hooked up. And what you can do now is put the cap over it. Once I verify everything works, what I like to do is tape this up and put some dielectric grease on the terminals there and just really help seal everything. But if you have an issue, I don't want to have to deal with all that grease, so we'll just do this for the time being. And once we verify it works, then we can do that. But I'll go ahead and just mount it up for now. That way it's secure. Take my screws, put them in, and snug them down. Now what we can do is actually get our lights hooked up here. So our brown and our black wire, I'm going to take one of the included yellow butt connectors and crimp it on. It's just a little bit easier to have these connectors on the taillight side as opposed to trying to, you know, hold it up and connect them from the other end. The black wire, we're going to take a yellow one as well, crimp it on, and the red wire, we're going to be using one of these smaller blue butt connectors there. So we're working on the passenger side, by the way, and what I did was strip our wires back that we pulled up here. The brown wire and the extra black wire that I ran up here, I twisted those two ends together. Same thing for the white wire and the extra white wire that I ran up. Green wire is just on its own. But we're going to get these connected. I'm just going to kind of shorten that up a little bit. So the green wire is going to go to the red wire from our bulb and socket. So that simply just plugs in and crimps down. The brown wire from our bulb and socket is going to go to our brown and extra black wire. So that goes the same way. And last but not least, over here, the black wire from our bulb and socket is going to get connected to the white wires the same way. So with that done, now we can take all of our factory lights and get these plugged back on in. Opposite way. Just get them lined up. Kind of feel them drop down and then rotate them that quarter turn to lock them in place. And once this is all done, we can simply reinstall the light the opposite way that we removed it. So now underneath the vehicle, I went ahead and routed our black, yellow, and white wire over towards the driver's side of our vehicle. So I just followed it up along the back side of our bumper. It's a little tricky to see, but it goes straight up into our taillight pocket. And I did that the same way we did the other side, just dropped down a pull wire and fed it up into position. All right, so over here, went ahead and hooked up our wiring to our bulb and socket pretty much the same way. The extra black wire that we ran gets connected to the brown wire from our bulb and socket. Red bulb and socket wire gets connected to the yellow wire, and the black bulb and socket wire gets connected to the white wire. Now, this one I used a yellow butt connector, and I grabbed maybe about a 2-foot piece of white wire here, and we're going to ground this end. All right, so I strip back the insulation. I'm going to take the included ring terminal, crimp that on, and we want to go to a clean, solid piece of metal on the body of our vehicle. I'm just going to do it right there. So I'll take the included self-tapping screw, get it where I want, and run it into place. Now once that is done, you can take the taillight, reinstall your bulbs, and put it back into place. So I went ahead and plugged into a test box, that way we can check it. You can use your motorhome, but keep in mind if you have an electrical issue on the motorhome side, that's going to translate to issues on this side. So to avoid that, you can use a tester box. That being said, try our taillights, our left turn, our right turn, and our brakes. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Roadmaster Bulb and Socket wiring kit for towed vehicles on our 2015 Chevy Sonic.